Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Sunday continuation of a coloring adventure. This is a page from Leila Duly's beautiful book, Floribunda, a flower coloring book. We started this on Sunday, and we're going to continue it now. Stay tuned, and we'll get started. Welcome back, and for those of you who might not know me, my name is Christine Aldridge. I am an artist. I do draw coloring books for a living. My books are available in print or as PDFs at Amazon or in my Etsy shop of the same name. Stay tuned, and my Etsy shop address will show up. This is one of the books that I've drawn. This is Flowers and Flyers, an adult coloring book of flowers, songbirds, hummingbirds, butterflies, owls, ornamentals, and more. There are 12 others. Now, on Sunday, we started this using kind of a combination of Derwent Inktense and or Arteza Real Brush Pens. Now, both of these are water mediums. This is an ink-based pencil. It's actually permanent ink in pencil form, and you activate it with a water brush. And this, of course, is truly water-based watercolor in a already preloaded brush form. If you want to change the intensity of the color, you can diffuse it onto a piece of plastic or another palette, mix it with water just like you would a watercolor if you wanted a lighter shade. Now, Leila Duly's book, as beautiful as it is and as thick and absolutely outstanding as this cardstock is, it is truly not water paper. And as a result, I have found that the results are a little splotchy. When I did the, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I'll give it a mighty try. Now this is, I should say, that this has been, try autofocus, make sure it's in really good focus for you. This has been gone over a couple of times as I was trying to deepen the colors, and it's just a little splotchy for me. The colors work fine, but the sort of overall impression that I'm left with is that of streaky. Now, I could write that off to texture and just call it good, but this one I had done in the Arteza Real Brush Pen, and I was a little happier with the way it turned out. This was the Inktense. So then I decided that I wanted to see what would happen if I tried using alcohol markers on it. Now, the pages in Leila's book, I should mention, are they're intended to be taken out. They're frameable, very much taken out in the same way that Nick Filbert's book, Serene, the pages, are meant to be framed, so they're glue bound and you can just tear them out. They're not perforated, but you can get them out. And so that is what I did, and I tried some alcohol marker on them, and as you can see, there's not even, well, there's maybe a tiny shadow of the color that has bled through, but otherwise not much. So I think that I am going to continue on, but I think I'm going to use alcohol markers to do it. And we're going to give it a try and see if the result is any better. So with all of that said, I'm going to actually back out because I do want you to see this book. For those of you who haven't seen it, Leila This was her first book, I believe, that she did for the coloring industry. And the book is huge. It's, I believe it's 11 by 14, and it is just chock full of these thoroughly gorgeous flower designs. And they're just huge. And then down here at the bottom of each one, it tells you what they are. And you can get very realistic. There have been some just superb colorings from this book. I strongly suggest that you check out, Leila Duly, Floribunda on IG. She tags a lot of the coloring work that's done in this book, but she also does have a smaller book. This one is called The Flower Year. Now, I did go over all of this on Sunday, but for the benefit of those who were not at the Sunday stream, this is her Flower Year book. Starts in January, and it goes all the way through December, of course. I won't do an entire flip through on it, but you can see what the pages are like. So she's got the flowers of February. Sometimes she adds some little creatures in for you. And otherwise, this is just a lovely, lovely coloring book. But all of Leila's work had been a little bit intimidating to me because I wanted to color it realistically. But then I finally just decided that no matter how it got colored, I was just going to be happy with it. And thus I have actually started. Now this is my favorite page, in the book, and and so I figured what better way to start. All right, so let's put these away and drag out some tools. Now these I'd originally done in the deep rose with Inktense, and then I had added the deep violet in the Arteza brush pens. And they're fine. They're really, they're fine. I could leave them this way, but I decided that I really wanted to bump up the color just a bit. So I dragged out the rose color. This one has a name. It's called Petal Pink of the CaliArt Markers. And so instead of leaving it just the pink, I decided to go ahead and darken it up just a bit. Now I've got that lighter color underneath. I can leave some of it or not leave some of it. It does look a little flat without it, but I think I can bump that up with some contrasts. That shadow that suddenly appeared is, of course, Coriander, my ever-present cat, who will probably poke a paw in here before too long. She knows that the camera is on, and she does she is sort of a camera hog. This is, of course, where she is sitting, right on top of the tools. So, for those of you who don't get to see her, I'm going to zoom down and hopefully give you a little bit better view here. There's good focus. And see, once again, it does have a tendency to go a little bit flat. But one of the reasons why I wanted to color in this book also is because it's important to me that people really understand that it doesn't matter if it's a precious book or if it's a book that you love but is now out of print. You bought the book for the purpose of coloring in it, and that's what you should be doing. You definitely should be utilizing your books and coloring in them, especially now when we all need you know, we all need to work on something that we really love. We really do. So if you're not coloring from my books, which I hope that you will be, then pick your favorite artist and just do a page that scares you, because, you know, as I think we are all coming to understand, there are things that come at us that we never see coming, and so why are you waiting? You know, why are you waiting? Don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. How's that for a justification for coloring in your books? Those books that scare you. Poor Christine. You know, I can hear him at my, you know, when saying my eulogy. Here she was an artist, but she was afraid of all these books, so here they sit on her shelf, and not a single one of them has ever been colored in. So, like I said, you don't have to color each and every little bit in. Leave some of, maybe I'm going to leave a little bit of that lighter pink just to give it a little character. But I really think that bumping up the pink adds a little bit more. Plus, this is just a smoother, the alcohol marker is providing a smoother finish. And, you know, I love markers. I really do love my markers. Now, I also had pulled out a couple of colors. Can I have those, sweetheart? Yeah, I know. You like to guard the colors, don't you? Yeah, she's my good guard cat. She's guarding all the colors. Now, I pulled out the Y423 and the Y762, which are, reading the microprint, yellow ochre and bitterwood. Bitterwood is what this one's called. And they are my two darks. Now, I had mentioned on Sunday's stream that I could quite literally spend a couple of hours just doing the tiny little details in this chrysanthemum. I won't make you watch that, but that is exactly what I've been doing as I sort of go along. I also, there was a ginger color from my, from the Real brush pens. And it is a perfect sort of mid shade that allows me to pull the browns or the darker color out a little further than the darks do, which provides a nice contrast and a nice feeling of motion to these petals. And so when you're doing your coloring of your own chrysanthemum, you can keep in mind that you can just add different shading. If you don't want to add shading or you're not comfortable with it, then don't do it. But if you do want to add a little contrast in, you can certainly do that. And this is, you know, kind of how to do it. I love to add contrast to my work. The colors that I used in there are I believe that I used the sun yellow and or actually I used the lemon yellow for a base, and then I used the sunset yellow, which is sort of the more golden color. So you can just, you know, keep adding dimension to that. Again, when we did the iris, now there are more irises on here, so I'll show you how I did that one. It just seems so blurry. Let me see if I can sharpen Mr. Iris up. Yeah, that's it. I think that the reason it looks blurry to me on camera is because it is quite splotchy. So let's find something new to do. Oh, and this is how I decided that I wanted to change mediums. When I went to do the green on this leaf, it just wouldn't take color. This area over here just wouldn't take the color out of either the brush pen or the Inktense with any kind of a decent finish. So I finally ended up using the alcohol marker just to even it out a little bit. And so that's when I decided to switch to alcohol markers. We'll zoom back out and we'll choose another flower to do. Okay, and I am back, and I have since changed out my light to a daylight light, literally from one scene to the next. And we're going to see how this works. We'll see if it keeps the colors truer for you guys, or if it works. So yay! All right, so keeping in the idea that we're going to do CaliArts, and I want to do a second iris to compare it to this one to see how we like it. So I pulled some colors. They are the B003, which is the sky blue, the B014, which is the brilliant blue, and the R826, which is my favorite, Aster Tataricus. I just love the name of that one. So I wanted to start out with the lightest of these blues and do a highlight bit right in here, which is what I was trying to do on the other one. And when I mean a highlight bit, what I mean is a part that is lighter. It's a lighter blue than the rest. So here, let's assume that it would be that part, because my light source is always sitting right here in my imagination. So the lightest parts of something are always going to be from that direction, or from that. Now I'm not doing up here because that is a yellow bit, and these markers do go on quite a bit lighter or darker than they end up being in the end. So all right, so now this is the darker blue, the brighter blue. And I'm going to go ahead and use this smaller tip just because these are some fairly tight little spaces. And it gives me a chance also to sort of feather the edge in a more controlled manner. See how I'm just leaving that sort of little spot there, and then we can blend that later. I don't want it to be too wide, but I don't want to disappear it altogether. So it's supposed to look, a little bit like a natural shine on the petal. And I'm only stroking in one direction. First I was going from, this direction. And now when I get to the other side, I'm going in the other direction. I find that I have much more control of my markers that way. If I want to do flat coloring, I can, but otherwise I can do it like this. Now I am going to, because these leaves are technically very dark. I mean, theoretically they're different colors and different lights. So that's what I'm trying to convey here. By using a darker purple as well. So if I use the darker purple and then go back to the wider tip, or even the narrow tip, on my blue and just sort of blend those down. And I'm leaving a bit in the middle there because I had completely forgotten that part of that is supposed to be yellow. So I'm leaving it. We'll just pretend that it's been shaded out right there. All right, and then here is the yellow, which we can use in here. Seeing how if I go over that area enough, it will actually then push the blue out of the way, and you can actually see where the yellow went in. So this is actually really beautiful. There it is. You can actually see how much darker that is than if I have this. So that must be a function of where the light is, or I've got the white balance way too high. Okay, so now we'll go back and do the same thing. Actually, what I want to do right here is I want to mark out that yellow bit so I don't accidentally color over it again. And this one didn't have, well, actually, yeah, this one doesn't really have yellow. This one does. I'm just going to add a little mark in to, delineate the yellow, so that one wouldn't. This one probably would. Take maybe a couple of them. And okay. I had to stop because I was playing with that. I was playing with the white balance again. Someday it will make me happy. Whoa. Hey, now that is interesting. If you ever wanted to know what the inside of a CaliArt marker looks like, that's it. Interesting. There we go. How is everybody? Are y'all still enjoying your own company? I know it's not really funny, but Can you imagine being stuck at home with yourself if you didn't like yourself? Fortunately, I kind of like myself. Not in a snobby way, but, you know, just in a general, yeah, she's okay to hang out with kind of way. Okay, so I just wanted to leave a little, well, maybe I won't leave because that part's not really facing any light. Okay. This part, however, is, so I need to put a little blue of the lighter blue up here. And I think I do need to pull a little of the, well, the yellow wouldn't be actually showing on that side. I didn't leave enough of that light there. That's all right. The world will not come to an end because I didn't leave a reflection. I can always add it in with some white later. So we'll put that there, and then we'll use the darker purple. I know that Anne, when she works with markers, she sometimes leaves the caps off while she's coloring her project. I cannot do that because I know how quickly alcohol dries up. And so to me, it just, it's not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just, to me, it makes me twitch to leave the caps off the markers for any length of time, except the length of time that I'm actually coloring with it. Yeah, I'm going to leave some. Going to put some yellow in there as well. There we go. That makes me feel a little bit better, even though it might not be visible from the other side. At least I know it's there. Oops, wrong color. The darker blue, Christine. The darker blue. Okay, so I can leave that sort of sheen there between the two petals. Oh heck, you can't see that, can you? Let's get you down here where you can actually see what's going on. By Jove, I think that's in focus. I surely hope so. My eyes are this light is very cool, whereas my normal light, the one that I've been using, is warm. And so it's a little different. I'm also going to pull some of that yellow in here. Just as an artistic choice. Alright, and then I'll go here with the blue. And here. I continue this one with this blue, and then do this outer part of it in the blue. But then I'm going to do the under part where it curls in the darker purple. So hopefully when it dries, you'll be able to visibly see that curl, but and if not, again, that is something that I can fix with moving some pigment around with either the colorless blender or something else. Okay. Just leave a little strip of that. So it doesn't really matter what you're coloring with. You know, you can, if you want to just do it quickly, then you can just do it quickly. If you want to take your time, pay attention to little, you know, details and what line goes here, and you can do that as well. There's no right or wrong in it. There's no, you know, there's no judgment in it. There's none of that kind of stuff. All right, look. Now this, see this little piece right here is definitely an outer leaf. So, because it's curled. So I want to go ahead and make that light. That is again. That is so strange. Because I can't get that lid off. There it is. Maybe see if the other one doesn't suit that better. Maybe I got them on the wrong side. This one seems a little easier to take off. So if I go around that with the darker color, then it'll automatically show up as that fold, which is really what it is. It's a fold in the petal. So I'll pull this down over here, maybe a little more. And then I will add some purple down here. My squeaky chair. Need to get some WD-40 for that. Okay, and just add a little color. And see, you can blend these colors together. Like for instance, if you want to blend that purple, if you notice that there's a harsh line, just go over it with blue in the same color, and it'll sort of, very much like a watercolor, it'll sort of blend together. So I really like the way that this one is coming out much more than this one. And that is a difference, really it is a difference in the two mediums. Now, if you notice, I did put down plastic because I am working with, markers only on this and not as just an afterthought. And it is, you can see, even as thick as this cardstock is, alcohol markers will bleed through anything. There is no such thing as paper that they won't bleed through. Or if there is, most books are not printed with it. So just keep that in mind, that that alcohol markers will bleed through anything and protect your page or your desk or your table or whatever it is underneath the whatever it is that you're coloring. All right. So I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to start this one. Maybe you can see the process a little better if I start with the darks. So I'm starting down here with dark because that would be where this leaf is folding over. And then I'm coming up also with the purple. Then I can go to the blue, which is a slightly lighter shade. And those will sort of meld into each other. And then because I want to establish that there is that dark purple right there, I'm also going to just do this part in blue. Oh, look, there's something running back there as well. Okay. And then I'm going to go to my light blue, and I'm going to go to the big side and just run a nice sort of light strip of it along there that I'll use as the highlight for this leaf. Oops. There we go. Yeah, I just had the caps on the wrong end of that. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it this way. I'm going to pull up the darker. And what I want to do is I want to leave a sort of a lighter curve. Turn it back over. It's just easier for me to pull downward. I get more control that way. Just leave that narrow, sort of where it would be catching light. And then on the underside, where it would be the darkest, and since it's now away from this, I can add a little purple. And then back to the blue. Go over that a little bit. Just like that. Alright, now I've got the dark purple. I want to come out from under this blue with a little bit of the dark purple, just so that you can see that it is darker under there. And one's right here as well. So now now that I can see it, I can bring this back down. And go back to my darker blue. Only not that end. There we go. Just do my little strokes. That will result in that little tiny jaggedy line that would disappear as you get to this part, because this would be not facing up toward the light. So it actually acts as its own little highlight and gives you a feeling of dimensionality, and that's what the contrasts and the lights and the darks do. So let's back away from this just a tad and see how we did. Oh, actually, I'm as backed out as I can be. I have to move the camera, and we'll hit the autofocus. And hopefully, our garden is it's starting to come to life. I'm liking it. Okay, next, let's talk about how to do, excuse me, these little areas back in here that are always so troublesome when you are working in a picture that's as detailed as this. Now, there are probably a ton of different approaches to this. I will show you my approach. And if you like it, then you can adopt it as your own. I basically tend to do this. I'm just going to color it all in. Is this the light shade that I need? Probably not. Let's see. Yeah, 902. Yeah, 902 is the anise. It is the lightest green in the CaliArt marker set. So I'm going to start out by just coloring everything in here. And then I am going to pick out the things that are not leaves. And the reason why I'm starting with the lightest first is because that, of course, gives me the leeway to then decide what colors I want things to be. I can change the tone of the green. You can see that I've already started to do this up in here. This is a flower, so I definitely don't want to go over that. But I can pick out that, pull these. There's a leaf. I can make dirt this way. You know, I can just do all kinds of different things. And, sweetheart, the cat went by. So you just start out with a base of a color. If you were, if you were able to work with water on this paper, you could just do it with a watercolor. On a picture, on paper that you are able to do that with. That would probably be my go-to approach to a wash. All right, and now I'm free to pick out some things that are not green. And we're going to build the detail from the background forward. So, like you could start out, like I've got this sort of darker brown. And so under here, which is a deep dark spot where it would be dark coming out from under this flower. See how I can do that? And as I pick those out, the green, you know, that green leaf sort of stands out. And I could do that all the way around if I wanted to. But I'm just going to settle for this darkest color underneath that. And then I'm going to switch to a lighter brown this is actually the yellow ochre. Hi, sweet cat. No, you cannot get in the shot. Sorry, sweetheart. I'm demonstrating, my dear. You'll just have to wait. And if I decide that this is not dark enough, if I liked that dark, which I think I did, then I think that I will go back to that darker brown to pick out some of these details. Plus, I think it shows up a little bit better for you. But you get the idea that you could change it up to a different color. And to me, this sort of helps, because otherwise, I mean, what do you do with your background? You could just leave it white. And don't worry, don't worry if you go, you know, if you cover up a line or, you know, a leaf or two. Because the artist is the only one who knows how many leaves there actually are. And I doubt even they know. So you just do the best you can with, just sort of picking out a few here or there. And then if you want to change the color of the green, you can. Perfectionist that I am, I'm trying to pick them all out, but you don't have to. And so then if I decide that, okay, so now I can see that they're all light and dark. Now if I want to change them to a different green, I can. So, you know, maybe I like this more yellowy green. I could leave just little bits of them, the light color, like they're catching light of some kind. And then I'd left a bunch of them up here, so I can go in and get some of those. I don't see them all now. There's one. Let's see here. Oh, there's some down there. Now, these are a little bit different in that they are actual stems to flowers that we'll be coloring in. But you get the idea. And I love how easy this is to do with the marker. Oops, you can just pick out the stems. Just like that. So there are a couple of ideas for how to do that. Now, if you don't like for instance, I don't really like that lighter color in there. I only used that lighter color so that you could really see what I was doing. I much prefer this sort of yellowish green. So I'll just go over all of those areas that I had left the anise color. And then when this dries, it'll be slightly lighter. Because all of this would be in shadow anyway. So, you know, because of all of the flowers sitting on top of it. So you get the idea of how that, see how that will look? It really does look a little more like, you know, the realistic stems that you can see. Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm also not liking the fact that I left all of these lighter pink spots. I realize it flattens it out. I can always add some darker pink as well. But those ones were bothering me, so now they're gone. And presto, you can see how that looks when it is, you know, sort of completed. So that is the method that I'm going to use for doing the greens in that section. It'll probably be, I think that's the only one where it's just really sort of nuts with, you know, the amount of little tiny detail in there. But, and I love these little stems. I just love these little stems doing it like this. It's so much easier to see also where the flowers go. And I got to thinking, you know, when that blue marker, when it pulled out, that is, you can see that there are indentations in the sponge tip thing at the end. I pulled it out again while I was off camera. And there's just no reason that I can think of that you couldn't buy, you know, ink and a pipette and actually put alcohol ink in the sponge again. Just as you would any refillable marker. There are markers out there that are refillable. They all, you know, sort of operate in exactly the same way that my Pigma Micron pens do. And that is that there is this sort of sponge thing in the middle that holds the ink in the sponge, and then the nibs poke into it on either end and supply the ink out the, you know, out the nib tips. So you know, obviously if you have a CaliArt marker and the nibs aren't worn out and it's empty, you ought to be able to refill it. Especially given that they just pull out like that, and all you'd need was a pair of pliers, and you'd just have to you know, you wouldn't want to grip it with something with teeth, but you just grab this, or, you know, with a pair of pliers and pull it out. We'll have to give that a try when that one runs out. This is my most used marker. This Petipole 825. This green. I use it for everything. And I just absolutely love it. And so that'll be, it'd be interesting. Okay. So I did the stems on those. And I should also, because these are, we could do these next. These are yarrow. Now, yarrow or yarrow, depending upon where you live in the world, is usually either a yellow. Whoops. Make sure I'm in focus here. I don't know. I hope that's in focus. My little eyes won't focus. Oh, wait. Wait. There it is. Close. Okay. Close, but no cigar. Well, looks okay. Are usually either yellow or pink, or they can be sort of a kind of a pinky orangish color. And I'm thinking that a really good, because I want to, you know, I want to make them different, but I don't want to, you know, I don't want to bring in a weird color. So I'm thinking that I'm probably going to make them I almost want to make them orange, but I want these to be orange. Shout out what color you think they should be, and I'll hear you. Okay, so to all of you who shouted out vivid pink, if there were indeed any of you that shouted out vivid pink, that is what color they're going to be. Whereas this was the petal rose, this is the vivid pink. It is a big, bold, bright color, but these are little teeny weeny. Oh my goodness, they are so tiny petals. And of course, each one has a little it's actually green, and I want to make sure I get the right green. Gonna go with a yellow green 804. I don't believe I have 804 out. I do not. I believe that is 804. I love the CaliArt markers. Then we'll go with we'll go with this little green guy right here. They are sort of, because they are such a tiny blossom, they are very colorful. They do typically come in mostly pastels, though. So this is probably a bit of a departure from their normal color, but it's going to work for our purposes. 804. I need to make sure that the rest of these markers are off somewhere where I can't get them confused. So that, actually I'm going to pick out the, I'm going to pick out the centers first, because that will make it easier to determine and not actually go over them accidentally with the pink. So hopefully you can see those. Oops, hang on, I need to grab my petty pole because I've got some stems in here that I did not do. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. And I realize that these tiny little things may be more difficult to see and that the pen might be in the way. Whoops. There is a tiny little center right there. But like I say, there's a tiny perfectionist that lives in me, and it wants what it wants. Which is for all the little centers to be green. And one of the things about it is that if you are working on a book with a lot of fine details like this, just pick out an element, just one, and start to color it, and pretty soon you'll see the rest of the details. So, you know, of what that particular element is. I notice that sometimes in, excuse me, in Kirby's books, you know, sometimes the details are hard to pick out, but if you just start with one, and, you know, one that maybe it's the big one, maybe it is the, you know, the central piece, then the others will slowly start to resolve themselves in your, you know, in your vision. Okay, so yeah, see, I mean, I think that's a perfect color for this. It's different from this pink, but it's not, you know, it doesn't look like it doesn't belong. So let's employ that same method and do another little bunch of these. I won't make you watch them all. For those of you that are watching or are fascinated, you know, great. And if you want to just skip ahead to the next bit, you can do that. Just picking out the centers of each of these little, like 4 or 5 petaled flowers. At least as many of them as I can identify. And sometimes okay, we'll do that. Okay. I think that's all of them for this one. Oh yeah, this was a really good choice. So to all of you who shouted out Vivid Pink, thank you. It's just sort of the right touch for right in here. And I'm really just tapping the, you know, because these spaces are so little, I'm just sort of tapping the color in. Instead of, you know, stroking it in. Just to try and maintain the detail and not have it go, you know, flying all over the page. Oh, I'm liking it. I am liking it, and that is the battle right there. If you are coloring something and you are really liking it, it just makes you want to keep going. If you're coloring something and it's just frustrating you, then just get up and walk away from it. Walk away from it. Come back to it when you're feeling like it is more handleable. You know, because I know that when I'm coloring something and it is just frustrating me, something is not coming out the way I want it to, or I just have to walk away from it. I just pack up my little tools, I write down the colors that I was using, and I rarely anymore do I just, you know, sort of employ the trash can. Although I have, as y'all know, I'm learning to watercolor, freehand watercolor. I cannot tell you how many are in the trash. There are a lot in the trash. Fortunately, I cut my you know, watercolor paper down to a small size, so I'm usually only throwing away a, you know, a 4 inch by 5 inch sheet. But yeah, there's a bunch of them in the trash. Because I'm like, well, that didn't turn out very well. Oh, wait, there's one back here. And I missed its little green center. So there's its little green center. And so you see what I mean. It looked sort of intimidating, but as you're picking out each little flower, which is why I added the, you know, the centers first to make the little flowers easier to see, the result is that, you know, it's looking like it's looking like a yarrow or a yarrow. Where I grew up in the mountains, we had lots of yarrow, and it was always yellow. We had a yellow variety that grew, and the butterflies liked it. I think they confused it for a butterfly bush, but the butterflies really liked it. So, yeah, so you can see how that goes. And I like it. I like that color. That vivid pink, I mean, even though it is sort of in your face, it really works in this particular spot on that particular kind of flower. I don't know that I would use vivid pink on a big flower, but you know, these tiny little flowers, it works really well on. So let me do these and I'll be right back. Okay, as you can see, I did take full advantage of the time and not only finished the little yarrow, but also finished the balance of the iris. And of course, it occurred to me too late for this one, but the iris does have a green stalk that actually reaches up just about that far. And if I'd have been thinking about it, I'd have put a hint of a green stalk here as well. But, you know, hindsight is always 20/20, and I think it works. Now, one of the things that I did do also while I was away is I added a little bit of that vivid pink to the edges around the Sweet Williams, because these are Sweet Williams. And so I think that that sort of ties that in together nicely. Plus, I liked the way it looked. And then I also added a little more of the ginger and the brown. I can still see little places that I missed, like this one. And, you know, just, like I said, I could spend hours and hours picking out each little one. Each time I look at it, I see one, I, you know, pick it out. I could be doing that for days. But let's move on to something else. Now, I am assured by Leila that that there is honeysuckle in here somewhere. Now, it doesn't look like the honeysuckle that I've seen. I am going to assume that these are the honeysuckle plants. And so I am going to color them accordingly. Now, there is also, beside Sweet William, which is Dianthus barbatus, there is also Dianthus dianthus. So I'm assuming that this is the other Dianthus. And it also can be a variety of colors. Therefore, it can be any color we choose to make it. But what I want to do right now is another tiny detail, and it is the Veronica. And the Veronica is, it's called Speedwell Veronica. It is typically a lavender, bluish lavender kind of color, and it is this right here. So we are going to do that. Zoom you down here. All right, I am going to, and man, I'll tell you what, these are little. Those were little, but these are tiny. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to give myself every advantage. And I am going to look at this right side up. So I'm going to start up here. Now this is a base layer. It is the mauve out of the CaliArt, which is R702. And really there's just enough room to get the point of the marker in there. So it's just sort of a touch and drag. Is that what you'd call it? A touch and drag? And I'm not worrying if I get it just a little bit outside of a particular leaf. I can always add a little dark detail background in later, or if I don't want it to be dark, I can use white to just tap it in. Now this unfortunately is not going to be a good choice of books for anybody who is visually impaired, because the spaces are so tiny, and my vision is it comes and goes. Of course, I am older, so I do have to deal with things like, my eyes are a little more easily fatigued. If you can see it and focus on it, even if it's just for short periods of time, then when it starts to go blurry on you, just put it aside, do something else, and wait until the morning or a time when your eyes are fresher. There's no reason why you can't do it. You just have to do like I do, and that is basically accommodate your limitations, whatever they may be. It's what I call the workaround method. Okay, this is the new reality. Let's find the workaround. I don't know about all of you, but I have been hearing from people that I haven't heard from in years, as we are all, acquaintances and people who've known each other all over the world are checking in on each other just to make certain that everyone we know is because this, of course, is going on all over the world, the COVID-19 pandemic, and so I spent a little bit of time early this morning. It, by the way, is Wednesday. I've been working on this on both Tuesday and Wednesday. In addition to, of course, what we did on Sunday. And so I wrote some notes off to people that I haven't otherwise heard from, or that are friends that don't do social media. Oh, thank you to whomever that was. That was wonderful. That's very kind. That is the little notice on my phone that tells me that there's been a sale in my Etsy shop. And I imagine that, like all of you, we are dealing with the unpredictability of the economy as we know it. And that, is no different for me. I hope that all of you are looking out for your own well-being first, and then reaching out to help the people that you can, if you can. I am not certain that these little stalks here are part of this plant, but they are now. So these are just little ones that haven't yet bloomed, that are sticking out. Oops. So once again, this is basically just color washing. And then, now the CaliArts, the one thing that I will say is that I have the 100 set, and you'd think that 100 would have just about every color that you would need, but they are a bit light on the purples. And there just aren't, there are quite a few purples, but they're not what I would call really well coordinating purples. And it's tough to get from a dark or from a light purple like this one into a dark purple. There needs to be one more in the range. You've got the light shade and you've got the dark shade of this lilac, but there's no in-between shade that actually suits these. So I do understand that they released an even bigger set of markers where they corrected that issue. But if, like me, you have the 100 set and you've got a couple of choices. You can use a mid-range blue to be your midtone, which is what I am going to do, and it's going to also tie in, because it's the same blue that I used up here in the irises. So it's going to tie that in quite nicely. All right. So there's always a workaround. If you don't have the exact color that you need, try using one of the components that makes up the color that you're using. You know, obviously purple is a blue and a red. Well, I could choose red, but I'm going to choose blue. So as you can see, if you approach these little tiny, tiny details, just one little element at a time, one little stalk, one little leaf, then the next one will show up. If you're not sure what something is, whether it's a leaf or a petal, just make a choice, because the chances are no one else is going to know if you got it wrong, because the eye doesn't work that way. It doesn't pick out the mistakes. It looks at, when someone is looking at a finished piece, they're going for the overall impression, not the individual brush strokes. Because if you went for the original brush strokes and looked at it, you could find mistakes in masterpieces. For instance, I could go for this pink as a midtone, and I may do that. I may do a little bit of that, just sort of up in here. There's no reason why I couldn't use this pink. It's just to add a little funky detail or whatever. Now, it looks sort of weird right now, but wait until I use that mid-tone blue on top of it. And let's see if we can get sort of a mid-tone purple. Of exactly the color that we need. How about that? That just came to me. And we're still using a little bit of the blue. Oh, that worked out nicely. Okay. So, yeah, I think that works. I think that's going to work. Hang on. Look at that. Okay. So we're just going to keep after that a little bit. Right now it looks pretty weird, but give it a second. Give it a second and it won't look so weird. We're going to have to let it dry. To know how we might have done. But we can always tweak it from there. So we're adding just a little bit. That looks really dark right now, but it won't once it's dry because it is soaking wet. So I'm going back to my light mauve to eliminate any harsh edges. Now, I don't know if this will work or not, but we're gonna check it out after it's had a chance to dry up. Once again, I'm not worried if I'm getting a little bit out there, because I can blend, you know, a little bit off the actual bloom itself, because I am going to be able to blend that in with a darker green when I do the leaves behind it. Okay. Now that looks a little funky, I realize right now, but it will look better. And it could be that I just used way too much, so we might want to attempt, you know, if I go to the Aster Tartaricus, which is the next, the color that sort of fits this, as far as, because when you look at the swatch, I back it out a little bit so that I can get both in, because they're on secondary pages. Okay, so this is, well, see, now that looks super blue. You would almost think that it was the deep violet, but the deep violet actually sort of clashes with it. The Aster Tartaricus, which is this one here, is a much better fit, but the color is just not right on this camera. No. 50. Alright, let's pull the white balance down and see if that helps. Does that look more purple? That might be it. That might be what we need to do. Yep, there it is. Okay, so you can see that that is purple. That's actually, that looks better all the way around. So this is actually, this one down here, the mauve, that's actually the dark for it, is the Aster Tartaricus. And that actually looks like the right shade. See, now let's see how our drawing looks. Okay, well, let's see. Let's put that theory to the test by adding just a little bit of the dark in along the stem of this to see if that All right, the jury's out on this. I need to well, that does improve it quite a bit. All right, let's try this. Let's try the Aster Tartaricus. I've got you zoomed all the way out. I need you zoomed all the way in. Oh, there it is. Okay, so yeah, see the contrast is just too much. It's just too much. Maybe if we just do I'm super dark toward the bottom. And then I'll try lightening them up a little bit more. We're just trying 3 different ways. So now I've got to do this combo thing. So now I'm doing the entire petal. I think this might be better. And now do the blue on top of that to give it that nice mid-tone purple. So you can, oops, that's not blue, Christine. That's mauve. Let's try blue. Maybe that'll work better. I mean, that doesn't look very purple to me. Yeah, that might be a little bit better. That might be a better idea. Some of these with little blue on their tips. There's no rule that says they have to be the lighter purple. But even if we do that, all right, okay, now I've got the mauve again. Even if I just use the mauve with the blue, to sort of bring that out, that mid-tone out. Well, I think that maybe a mixture of the darks and the lights might work. Okay, then maybe do a little more of the redder purple. Out here. There are times when I make it look like I know what the heck I'm doing. And there are other times like this where you can see that I am winging it. And winging it is not necessarily a bad thing. Even if it's in a out of print book on your favorite page that you've always been intimidated and scared by. Because the bottom line is that once you're into it, you might as well just go for it. In for a penny, in for a pound. Yeah, I don't hate this one. This one is looking good. All right, now I want the last little bit of this to be pink. All right, so we're learning as we go. We're learning what we like and what we don't. So I like the redder purple. Maybe I should have just used that deep violet to begin with. All right, so let's see if we can fix this by making some of these outer ones blue. Could be they just didn't like being mauve. It's funny how the elements on your page will tell you if they're unhappy, because they won't look good to your eye. And if they're unhappy, you're unhappy. But you are the boss of your coloring book, so you can do whatever the heck you want. Let's back out and see sort of overall how those present. Right now they look a little blurry because they're kind of fuzzy around the edges. Yeah, the jury is out on that. Let's see, maybe adding some stem work will redeem them. You just never know. Sometimes adding the green really sort of helps. Let's see here. Where's Alright. Now I do want to make, I want to color these leaves, but I don't want to color all the leaves exactly the same colors. Because some of them are dark and some of them are light and some of them are in the dark. Like, for instance, this one coming out behind here is going to be a very dark color. And I have the emerald green out, and I think that I want to use the emerald green. Let's see if we want to use the emerald green on this one. I actually might want to add some brown to that. I don't want them to look flat, and I'm starting out with a dark color. I may want to go back and add some light before I go much further. Yeah, I think I want to do that. All right, but this will give us a chance to sort of see how these look against this dark background, which you can hide a multitude of sins behind a dark background. So instead of being an element that stands out, it's now an element that sort of fades into the background. So now you don't even see that you made a mistake. We may still redeem it. We may still find a way to redeem it. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to leave you zoomed out there. Yeah, see, it sort of pops out against that background. There's about a gajillion leaves going on back here, though. I'm trying to only color the ones that actually go to this particular. It's not the those. It's this one particular leaf stock. These aren't the leaves of this flower. It just runs behind it. Okay. Alrighty. So that is that one. Oops. Look, there's more of it over here. Here's some of it here. And this is what I mean. As you work on a particular element, like this, just this one leaf stem that's running out from behind other things, you'll start to see what the artist saw when she was drawing in all of these little details. And you'll automatically know where things go. Okay, so that is just that one leaf stalk. And throwing in a background behind that sort of redeems it. So that will work. Now we need to decide on a color for the see, 804 is, yes, 804 is my, no, 915 is my foil to the petty pole. So I'm going to take 915, which is the chartreuse green, and I'm going to do this leaf because it's the one that runs behind this guy, and I'm going to do this leaf as well. Because it runs prominently behind the other one. And then I can use the darker greens. And there are also, see, this one is like the same kind of leaf, and it also runs behind. And folds over. Okay, and then some more of it. Actually, that's a different kind of leaf, so that's probably not this one. Yeah, so these are the leaves to this. All right, so that tells me, okay, that is where this goes. This actually comes down and attaches to this stem. So these are the leaves that go to these blossoms. All right, now I've got it. And see what I mean about you have to, sometimes you just have to keep looking until you see it. And for instance, this then tells me that that's a stem, but that these are the leaves that go to these little teeny guys. So since these are all the same kind of flowers, I'm going to do their leaves with a base coat of all of the same colors. All right, and there is the other stem. All right. See, it's starting to make sense now. I still have to do this one, but I'm concentrating on the leaves right now. All right, so this is the pedipole again. So I'm going to come out of my shadow areas with the darker green. I'm just going to leave a little bit of sort of streakage. Just to give it a little sort of dynamic look. So not covering it entirely over, leaving it a little bit okay. And you can also do something like this. And, you know, give it motion that way, or give it life that way. Maybe just leave that one up bright, you know, sort of bright colored right there, so it looks like maybe it's catching some light from somewhere. So, I mean, it's a start. It's a start on how to do that particular leaf, and we could also pretend that this one back here is another one of these, even though it doesn't necessarily have the same striping on each individual leaf. That the other one did. So, but you can still sort of tie that in like that. Because these are completely different kind of leaves. So I don't know exactly what color they should be. Here's another one of these right here. And then these are more of the yellow leaves. So let me do the yellow leaves so I can be sure to get them out of the way. Let's see here, 915, so that's the right color. And here's another one. Okay. So I've got those. Now, whoops, wait. No, this one is, yeah, I've got it. Okay. So now I can pick out that this is the little leaves that go to this stalk. It's like working on a jigsaw puzzle. Trying to figure out what goes where. Okay, so, whoops. Now there's a tiny, teeny weeny, itty bitty bit of purple that goes in there. Remember what I said about that tiny little perfectionist that lives in me? Okay. Thank goodness she doesn't come out to play too often. Or I'd never get anything done. Oh, wait. Not quite sure where this puppy came from, but it's there. Okay. So you just I don't know what some of these things are. Oh, wait, this has got to be. If you really can't identify it and you don't know what it is, just choose something for it to be. So, for instance, this is probably a part of a petal that goes to this chrysanthemum. but instead I have made it a part of a leaf that you can't see. Yeah, just like that. So you just approach it one little element at a time, and eventually it will resolve itself, just like this is starting to. And so let me finish up this little section, and we'll move on in probably another video, but we'll wait just a second and see how we're doing time-wise. Ooh, new plan. And I thought I'd pop back on just to show you what it is. The more I looked at this, the more unhappy I was with that emerald green. So I pulled out the darkest green that there is, which is the chromium oxide green. Because I got to looking at this, and Leila has actually put a line of a black leaf. She's done this in a couple of different spots. And I wanted to try and capitalize on that, yet still be green. So I whipped out this darkest green, and I'm putting it over the emerald green, but I am leaving just a tiny little flash of the emerald green in each of these leaves. And I am liking it. So I think that I will continue to do all of these this darker green. I'll leave the, the lighter green. I think it'll add even more contrast and blend it further back into the background. So be right back. Okay, and I am back, and this is now the way it looks. I did, as you can see, I did this with just the pink and blue instead of trying to dude it all out, and I like that. And then I had started to do the same thing on these three, but when I put just the pink on, I thought I really liked the way that it looked. So I'm just leaving those with the vivid pink. Now I did go into the background a little bit and created, I started out with the bitter root and did a very dark spot for the soil underneath the flower. And then as I worked out, I switched over to the praline or the praline, again, another word depending upon where you're from. And I've just sort of blocked in a bit of background. So, so theoretically, I'll work that across. It'll be like the soil in the garden. So this is where we are on this one right now. I think I do want to call this a video for a couple reasons. One, my eyesight for the day is starting to blur up, and so I can't really see the focus very well. And then the other is I need you guys to let me know how you feel about these series videos. I do know that when I get to a part 3, very few people watch it, whereas quite a few people usually will tune in for parts 1 and 2. The follow-up is always part 2, and then the part 3 is where I usually will finish it up. So I'm going to let you guys, or ask you guys, to leave me comments. Leave comments below. Let me know how you feel about the series videos like this. Do you want me to go ahead and finish this on camera for you, or would you prefer to see it on Instagram when I finally post it? Do let me know, and until we meet again, color something pretty. Bye, everybody, and thank you for spending some time with me.